Don't raise your voice, Mike. It was the fourth time that morning Sarah whispered those words through gritted teeth. But Mike wasn't listening. Again. Across the kitchen, their 7-year-old son, Ben, stared down at his cereal, his tiny hand trembling as he lifted the spoon to his mouth. Their 10-year-old daughter, Emma, sat frozen, eyes darting between her parents. The tension was thick, heavy like a thundercloud ready to burst. Don't act like this is all on me, Mike snapped, slamming the refrigerator shut. You think just because you stay home with the kids, I get to be the villain every time something goes wrong? Sarah stepped forward, lowering her voice. I'm asking you to stop. They're watching. But it was too late. Ben dropped his spoon. Emma stood abruptly, knocking over her chair. I'm going to school early, she said, grabbing her backpack with a speed that said this wasn't the first time. That was the moment it hit Sarah like a punch to the chest. Not the yelling, not the anger. The silence. The way their kids didn't cry anymore when it happened. They just shut down. The breaking point. Mike and Sarah were high school sweethearts. Married at 23, kids by 26, a house by 30. On the surface, it was the American dream. But beneath it? Debt. Stress. Emotional exhaustion. Mike worked long hours as a contractor, always worried about paying bills, especially when projects dried up. Sarah had given up her teaching job to stay home when Ben was born. At first, it was joyful. Then it turned to isolation. They used to talk. Now they argued. About everything. From groceries to gas money to who forgot to sign Emma's permission slip. And it always ended the same way, someone shouting, someone storming out, and two little faces pretending not to notice. Until one night, they couldn't pretend anymore. The night it all cracked open. Emma had a school recital. She was playing the flute, her first solo. Sarah had told Mike about it a week in advance, left reminders on the fridge, even texted him the day of. He didn't show. When they got home, Emma didn't cry. She just went to her room, closed the door, and didn't come out. Sarah waited. And waited. Mike walked in at 8:45 p.m., tired, dirty, reeking of exhaustion and diesel. Sorry, he mumbled. Got caught up. I'm starving. Sarah didn't yell. She just stared. They watched you not show up, she said quietly. And I think it broke something. Mike scoffed. What's that supposed to mean? She didn't ask where you were. She didn't cry. She just stopped expecting you. That was the moment Mike stopped moving. Something cracked, not between them, but inside him. I didn't mean. But you did, Sarah said. You didn't choose her. Not this time. And not the 100 other times before this. Facing the mirror. That night, they didn't sleep. Not because they were fighting, but because they were finally talking. Really talking. Mike admitted he felt like a failure as a provider. That every day he came home to a house filled with mess and noise and bills, and all he saw was everything he wasn't doing right. Sarah admitted she felt invisible. That her life was a cycle of cleaning, cooking, breaking up fights, and no one, not even Mike, noticed how tired she was. They both cried. They both confessed. And they both realized something terrifying. They loved each other, but they were teaching their children what love looked like by how they fought. The turning point. The next day, Mike called a therapist. A real one. Not for couples therapy, not yet. Just for himself. A week later, Sarah joined him. Then, they sat down with Emma and Ben and apologized. They didn't just say we're sorry. They explained it in words children could understand. Sometimes grown-ups forget how to talk to each other, Mike told them. But that's not your fault. And it's never okay to yell, Sarah added. Not even when we're upset. Emma asked a question that crushed them both. Do you still love each other? Sarah nodded, holding Mike's hand. Yes. That's why we're going to do better. The climb up. Progress wasn't overnight. They still argued, but they learned to pause. To take space. To use words, not weapons. They implemented family talks once a week. At first, the kids said nothing. But over time, they opened up. Emma talked about how scared she used to feel. Ben admitted he thought the fights were because of him. Those nights ended with group hugs and tears. Mike started coming home earlier, even if it meant taking smaller jobs. Sarah took a part-time online teaching gig to feel independent again. They divided responsibilities, not perfectly, but fairly. And for the first time in years, there was laughter in the kitchen. The message. Fighting in front of the kids had nearly destroyed their family, not because they argued, but because they forgot to protect the space where their children learned what love was supposed to be. Love isn't the absence of conflict. It's how you handle it. Mike and Sarah didn't become perfect parents or the perfect couple. But they became something better, aware. Aware of the power of their words. Aware of their children's eyes watching. Aware of the silent pain they were causing by not dealing with their own. Today, Emma plays the flute with confidence. Ben has stopped flinching at loud voices. And every night, Mike and Sarah check in with each other, not because they have to, but because they finally want to. If you've ever raised your voice and watched your child shrink. If you've ever said I'm fine when you're falling apart. If your love is buried under layers of blame and burnout. You're not alone. But it can get better. It starts with one choice, to stop fighting in front of the kids, and start fighting for them. And in doing so, you just might find yourselves again too.